Okay, welcome everybody to Speaking of Zane, April the 16th, 2023 edition, the 227th edition of Speaking of Zane. More about what Lori is talking about in the chat there in a minute. She made a funny little blunder here, which I'll talk about in a minute, but good to have you all in here. And for those watching the recording, we do have folks that watch the recording on the Speaking of Zane Facebook group and on YouTube. So if you're not watching live, I know you are watching the recording, so good to have you in there. Well, let's see who we've got here tonight. Lori's in there. Daryl's in there. Let's see. Colin's in there. Carl and Peggy are in there. Okay. Well, good. Good. Maybe we'll have some more join along the way on this April the 16th edition of Speaking of Zane. Happy anniversary to Lori and I. We were talking about this last week. Well, we did a little getaway this weekend. But first, so Lori is sort of the queen of all custom gifts, and she always does a good job. There's my Aunt Mary. Hey, Aunt Mary. She does a great job with gifts. I suck at gifts. Anyway, so it was my birthday recently. I celebrated my 60th birthday back in March, and Lori surprised me with Stevie Nicks tickets here in Atlanta on May the 22nd. I'm excited about that. And then, of course, we have an anniversary last week on Friday, April the 14th. We were married for 39 years. So she gets me a gift. And she's a big Dodgers fan. I'm a big Braves fan. We've always had a rivalry ever since the Braves were in the National League West, and they played the Dodgers all the time. So she gets us tickets to the Braves. That'll be our first Braves game this year. She gets tickets to Braves Dodgers, which would be great. But guess what the date is? May the 22nd, the same night as the Stevie Nicks concert. So I don't know if I'm supposed to go to the Braves game for a couple innings and then go to the Stevie Nicks concert. Anyway, so congratulations, Lori. Oh, of all the dates in the year, and all the things that she could have done, and we wind up, she gets me 2 gifts, and they're on the same night. So that's what she's talking about in the chat. Hey, Amy, there's my good friend, Amy. How are you, Amy? It's so good to have you back. It was great to see you, as it always is when I go to Omaha. And I wish it had been under better circumstances, of course. We've talked about this last week and the week before, but Amy lost her husband, Roy, a few weeks back. And many of us gathered for his funeral in Omaha. Amy, what a turnout that was, and just incredible. But good to have you in here. Okay, well, let's see what we got going. So Lori and I had an anniversary, so we decided to take a little, there's Lori's dog right back there. You see Lori's dog. It was supposed to be a snickerdoodle. It was not snickerdoodle. It was, what was it, Lori? A labradoodle. Labradoodle. Supposed to be like a Labrador doodle mix, right? Well, look at her. She's 11 months old. She's not even a year old. She doesn't look anything like a labradoodle. I think labradoodles aren't supposed to shed. This dog sheds. And this dog, it turns out, if you look at pictures, this dog, whose name is Liberty Bell, there she goes. Her mama called her. She looks like an Irish wolfhound. So she's like a mix, like a Labrador wolfhound mix, but she is the sweetest dog. Lori has made an attempt at several dogs over the last couple of years, and they all sucked. And this one is actually pretty good. It's a pretty good dog, but it's not a lap dog, that's for sure. Big old dog, but her name is Liberty Bell. Lori named her. But anyway, she made a special appearance there. But let's see, where was I going? So we decided to take a little getaway. And, when you live in Atlanta, you don't have to go far in any direction to find someplace fun and exciting to go. And we love to explore. And we do a lot of history traveling and a lot of Civil War stuff. And anyway, we decided to run up to into Tennessee, which is very close to us. I mean, in an hour, you can be in Tennessee. And we decided, I discovered quite by accident on YouTube this little town called Rugby. Look it up if you're not familiar with it. But it was an experiment by an English author. I think his name was John Hughes, something like that. But he wrote some books. And anyway, he had this idea of immigrating to the U.S. and starting this, really planning a community. He was a community planner. And he planned this community, and it was to be somewhat of a cooperative with the general stores and schoolhouse and library and all this stuff. And I think it was Lori will have to help me, but pre-Civil War, I believe, or maybe it was post-Civil War, 1880 something. But he settled in this little town of Rugby. And he named it Rugby after Rugby, England, and that whole area through Appalachia is, a lot of Scots and English settled in there, and the Scots, it looked a lot like home to them with the Appalachian Mountains and the valleys and all of that stuff. But anyway, but this community is called Rugby, and it's just a little bit northwest of Knoxville, just to give you a kind of a point of reference. But I had seen some things about this little town, and Lori loves that kind of history and stuff. And I said, well, I thought, well, that'd be cool to visit sometime. And just about a mile outside this little town of Rugby is an old general store. Like those of you that are as old as Lori and I or older, you remember the general store that was in most communities. And I remember in Alabama, and there's a general store. It's called R.M. Brooks. Look it up. This guy on YouTube has got a channel called the Appalachian Channel, I believe, and he's done several seasons of episodes of this general store. It's got such a rich history, and so you can film there over and over again and talk about all kind of different things, and he has. Anyway, this young lady, she's in her 50s. Tiffany is the descendant of the owners, and like fifth, sixth generation owners, and it's been in this R.M. Brooks General Store has been in operation since the late teens, 20s, and anyway, Lori loves that kind of stuff, and I thought this would be kind of cool just to take a trip up there. It's about 3 hours. Take a trip up there, have lunch there at the General Store, which is packed full of history. It used to be the town post office, and the post office is still inside, and they cook fried bologna sandwiches, and it's just a fascinating place. And so we decided we'd go up there, see Rugby, have lunch at this general store, and then figure out what other kind of trouble we could get into. And we did, and we found our way a little bit south of Rugby, near a little town called Sunbright, Tennessee, and we went to the Lily Bluff Overlook. Lily Bluff Overlook, very scenic, as you might imagine, with the falls and the rivers and the streams and the mountains and the canyon valleys and all this stuff in East Tennessee. And there's this place called Lily Bluff Overlook, so we went up there. I did a little hiking up through to get some better views, and I happened to tell one of my coworkers last week that I was going to be up in that area. He lives in Knoxville. He said, well, if you're going to be over that way, stop in to my brother-in-law's place. I'm like, okay, what kind of place? He says, it's a brewery. He brews beer, and he's got bands and this, that, and the other. And I said, okay, no big deal. If we go near there, I'll stop by. Well, we turns out it was like a mile from this Lily Bluff Overlook. And it's evidently a big destination for kayakers and hikers. There's all kind of hiking trails through there, and these group clubs of hikers come through there, and they hike and stuff. And then they go to this brewery in the afternoon, evening, and listen to music and have some dinner and what have you. And that's what we stumbled on, and ended up meeting the owner, who's the brother-in-law of my colleague at work. And it was just couldn't have worked out any better. But we loved it so much. We got there about 5 o'clock. The band started playing about 6, and we met some folks there. Met a couple that are about our age there that were just hanging out in the Adirondack chairs with us, and we met an Army veteran, retired Army officer that we had a long chat with, and just had a fantastic evening there. And then once we were all done there, drove back over toward Knoxville where we were staying. But so we hit Rugby, we hit the R.M. Brooks General Store, we hit the Lily Bluff Overlook, we hit the Lily Pad Brewery, and then we went over to just north of Knoxville where we stayed. And then on the way back this morning, we stayed the night, and on the way back, we hit the Knoxville National Cemetery, which is a little bit downtown. I had been there before. We hit that, discovered some new things I didn't know there, and then kept driving south to come back home. We stopped at East Tennessee State Veterans Cemetery. There's 2 of them, one on the east side of town, one on the west side of town. We stopped at the one on the west side of town. And then when we got back into Georgia, we stopped off at a little known cemetery that's really small and off the beaten path. It's called Resaca. There was a battle there, Battle of Resaca, and there's a Resaca Confederate cemetery. It's all Confederate soldiers in there. Very well maintained. Flies a Confederate flags at all the headstones. Just a fascinating place. Stop by there, and then not 5 miles or so from there is the Buc-ee's in Calhoun, Georgia. So we stopped off at the Buc-ee's and had a sandwich, and then back home. And I got home in time to do a little yard work and some things around the house, and it was a good weekend. We love doing that kind of stuff. We're talking about a road trip up to Maine sometime this year to see our grandkids. We have 6 grandkids that live up there. Our son-in-law, Will, who's the new husband of Zane's wife, Abby, is in the Navy, and he got transferred up there. He was an enlisted guy, became an officer. They transferred him up there. They finally found a house after a year or so of searching. So they bought a house up there. Now, once they get all settled in, then we'll see if we can drive up there. And the reason I say drive, now it's a long way, but there's a lot of stuff we want to do on the way. I think I'd rather drive than fly, especially if we've got the time. But anyway, so stay tuned for some more Granddaddy and Grammy adventures on the road. But that was a good weekend. Okay, but we made it back home. Like I said, with plenty of time to do some normal Sunday afternoon stuff. Weight loss update. Weight loss update. I hit territory I have not hit before. So I'm at 77 pounds lost. 77 pounds lost. How about that? That 80 is within my grip. Now, Amy, I was telling Lori that you told me when I was in Omaha that I don't need to lose anymore. Oh, and you're probably right. You may be right. I mean, I've gone down from a size 46 waist to a 38 waist. I'm happy with 38 waist, but I've got a little challenge going at work, and these youngsters, I'm not going to let them beat me. And it's a weight loss challenge. So I will attempt to lose a few more pounds. I think it'd be kind of cool to say I've lost 80 pounds at least. So stay tuned. 3 more pounds to go to hit that. Okay, well, let's see what else we got going on. If you're an American taxpayer, don't forget that Uncle Sam wants your money this week, but he doesn't want it as soon in the year as he normally does, because the way that things fell, the 15th fell on a Saturday, and then there's something on Monday that's a federal something. So Tuesday, the 18th. So I got mine knocked out. That goatee. You think so? I'm told that when I shave this fuzz, it makes me look younger. So maybe it's pure gray almost. But hey, if it'll lose me to 3 pounds, I might consider it. There's my Aunt Paula. Hey, Aunt Paula, how are you? Good to have you in there. I was just talking about Lori and I making a little trip this weekend, a little adventure. We plan some and we don't plan the other, which is kind of a perfect mix. We plan enough so we know where we're staying and we have an idea, but we're flexible enough that we can hit things and pivot and adjust and all of that stuff. So, and she's a good travel buddy. So, all right. Well, let's see. Hat of the week. Hat of the week has something to do usually with something we've got going on here in the family, in the house, at work, with Zane, with things that are going on in the news. And we do have some things to share in This Week in Military History, and one of them ties into the hat of the week. And this is the hat of the week. Daryl is spot on. This is the hat of the week. Let me let it so you can see it much more closely. This was the hat that a bunch of us got after the raid on Libya, which was known as Operation El Dorado Canyon on April 14th, 15th. of 1986. And Lori and I were stationed there, and the wing adjusted, launched a bunch of tankers. Our squadron equipped a bunch of the tankers with some secure voice, and it was crazy. Lori and I remember, Lori and I were big into volleyball on the squadron team, and we were at the gym as we were getting out of our squadron volleyball practice. I don't even know if Lori remembers this, but all of a sudden it was just tanker after tanker taking off, taking off, taking off, taking off, taking off. And it was like, okay, it's on, And then, of course, our allies, France, would not let us overfly their country. Big surprise, right? So the F-111s and the tankers had to fly down across around Spain through Strait of Gibraltar into the Med, and then into Benghazi and Tripoli, and then turn around and come all the way back, and refueling all the way there and all the way back. And it at least doubled the trip. And so the pilots were in the air for a long time. And yeah, Carl was there. I don't remember the timing for Amy and Steve. I don't remember the overlap in 1986, who all was there, but April of 86. And yeah, it was crazy. And of course, we ended up losing an F-111 that was hit by fire, and lost the 2 crew members there, unfortunately. But yeah, incredible experience there. Our unit was awarded we got a medal from the Navy. Actually, it was the Navy Commendation Medal. It's crazy. Okay, so Amy wasn't there yet. Yeah. Okay, well, let's see. So that's the hat of the week. I still have this hat after all these years, and it has this lining that has since fallen apart and crumbled and dissolved and disintegrated. And every time I put it on, that stuff falls into my eye. I never wear it. This is the only time I'll wear this hat all year. But the stuff up in just falls down into my eyes. And anyway, it's probably poison, asbestos or something. Okay, let's see. Well, let's go to This Week in Military History. There are some items here of interest. And let's see, let me go chronologically all the way back to April the 15th of 1865. President Lincoln was assassinated. April 15th, 1865. And then in 1912, on April the 14th, 1912, April the 14th, is when the Titanic, I think I have an accompanying photograph here. Give me one second. Give me one second. The Titanic hit the iceberg on the 14th. I think they left Southampton on the 11th. I think I'm right. And they hit the iceberg on the 14th. I'm going to tie these things together here in a minute, but let me share this. See if I can share this. Here we go. I have to find the right nerd knobs here. Okay, I have to select. All right, they've changed the interface a little bit here. This is what I'll do. See if you guys can see this. There we go. There's the Titanic. There's the Titanic. Let me do something else here that will help. Let's hide that bad boy. Okay, there's the Titanic sometime after striking the iceberg. But that happened on April the 14th. How about that? And then what else in history? April the 14th, Titanic, April the 15th. Let's see, I already talked about El Dorado Canyon on the 15th. And then, of course, on April 14th, 1970, is when Apollo 13 had its famous problem. Remember the very famous transmission, Houston, we have a problem, that came from Apollo 13 on April the 14th, 1970. So you've got the Titanic, you've got Lincoln, you've got Apollo 13. And so who decides to go and get married on April the 14th? A 19 and 20-year-old airman that didn't know better. So anyway, we might have picked a different date had we known what we had in common with those historical moments. But hey, that's the way it goes. And then Lori sends me this thing. Lori sends me this email that talks about how there are all of these tumultuous events and activities that occur between between April 14th and April 21st. It's amazing the list of occurrences over in history in the window of April 14th through April 21st. It's just incredible. You can go look that up, but crazy. Okay, you think? Yeah, Steve-O might have taken that when him and Kathy were on one of those cruises, right? Okay. Let's see. Daryl's got another one. B-52 is 71 years old. Yeah, why B-52? First flight, April 15th. Thanks for that reminder, because that is an incredible fact. I'll tell you what. One of my favorite memes, Daryl, is there's a bunch of people gathered at the retirement ceremony of the B-2 bomber. It says B-2 bomber, which is the two generations after the B-52. The B-2 bomber retirement ceremony interrupted by B-52s doing transitions in the pattern. It's just, and I think that may actually be true. The way that B-52 is held together and continues to fly, just an amazing feat. No doubt about it. All right, let's see. That's this week in military history. So you can see it's a big joke for Lori and I about April the 14th. That was crazy. And then, of course, on our wedding day, the IG sprung an inspection at SAC of that day. And so people had to work, and they commandeered the venue that we were having our reception in. It was just a mess. But it's all part of the story now. So, okay. Well, let's go to the Veterans Cemetery Challenge. Lori and I hit some cemeteries today. Wow, what an amazing day. I know Daryl made a visit to Jefferson Barracks this week. I don't want to miss that. And then Lori and I just mentioned that. Lori and I, on our way back today, we didn't have to go out of our way. They're all on our way. And then it culminated with visiting Zane at Georgia National, which is always great. And it's on the way back. So if I add up Daryl's and Lori and I's visits, we had 9 visits this week. So we're at 789 visits, 789 visits. And Amy, we counted all of the visits that we made when we laid Roy to rest there a few weeks back at Omaha National. Amy, it was freaking cold, wasn't it? It was cold. And then guess what? The very next day, it was in the 60s. It was like, what a clear demarcation. It was like crazy. It was like when we buried Zane, it was snowing. But, and it doesn't do that here very much. But yeah, it was, Amy, it was freezing that day. It was so cold. And I was taking pictures. And I'm glad I took a bunch of pictures, because I didn't see a whole lot of people taking pictures. And I didn't even think to ask Amy. I should have asked Amy first, but I took a lot of pictures. So I used my phone, and my phone was out in the wind and everything. And that's the only thing I can think is that wind, that cold drained my battery. Before we left the cemetery, my battery was dead on my phone, from full to dead, just from that cold. But Anyway, the very next day, Amy, I went back out there and I was in a t-shirt. It was just incredible. Incredible. Okay. Well, that is the Veteran Cemetery Challenge. Well, thank you, Amy. Yeah. Um, one of my favorites is the one of you and your son, the profiles of you and your son. I didn't, it was just total accident. I was just taking a bunch of pictures, but your son and you, the profile, the resemblance is just incredible there. And the way that you were poised there, just incredible photo. Okay, well, let me see if I think I've got the Thank a Vet challenge items accurate for the week. And Paula may spring one or two on me because she's been known to do that. But I think I know what I have here. So Daryl had a conversation with an Army vet named Rick. Sounded like that was a good experience. Daryl, thanks for chronicling that. And then Carl had a Army guy he met. They exchanged mutual admiration there at the Lowe's. I tell you what, if we added up all of the vets that we um, saw and said thank you to at Lowe's or Home Depot, it would be a pretty big number. So, Carl, thank you for that. And then Lori, we were sitting at this general store. I was eating a bologna sandwich. Lori had a hot dog, I think. And there was a young lady. Um, she was like a Tennessee Department of Natural Resources or something. There, like a park ranger or something. Sidearm. She had a weapon on her, and Lori whipped out one of her um, thank you cards and said, "Ma'am, I just want to thank you for your service." And she gave her a card and gave her a card for her colleague, and so that was kind of fun to witness there. So Lori had the two Tennessee DNR folks, and then an Army veteran at the brewery we went to. Lori makes fast friends everywhere she goes, but she made friends with this guy so quick. His name is Joe. Got a picture of Joe in the upload there. Look on the Facebook page. But Joe is a hiker, and he was up there hiking. And it turns out that this place we went to is a favorite for the folks that get off the trail or get out of their kayaks, and they'll come to this place. And it's kind of a picture of this. I told Lori, I said, I got the vibe from this place because there's a lot of hikers and naturalists and nature and kayakers, but it's also out in the middle of rural Tennessee. So you got good old boys, ranchers and farmers and blue collar. And this place, it's like a clash. It's really not a clash, but it's like this mixture of if hillbillies met hippies is the vibe that you get. And it was just so ultra cool. I mean, we had a blast hanging out at this place, and it was incredible. And this guy Joe was there, and Joe spent 30 years in the Army, retired Army officer, and a Desert Storm vet, Iraqi Freedom vet, Enduring Freedom vet, and it's like we'd known each other forever. And Lori makes fast friends anyway, and we were just talking and talking, and it was just awesome. Yeah, and there was gnats. There was these gnats. They're Tennessee gnats. They're not like Savannah gnats or South Georgia gnats. They were different. Anyway, but it was awesome. And so we met this guy Joe, and had a great time hanging out with him. So Lori had Joe, and those two. Daryl had Rick. I had an Air Force. I chatted with an Air Force guy there too. And then this guy, Joe, Carl had this guy at Lowe's. So if I added all that up, I think I was at 7 thank yous for the week. So, and Paula, last week we passed the 2,000 mark, and Lori had our sign. In fact, let me see if I can remember our sign that had 1,000 thank yous. Now it has 2,000 thank yous on it. So we passed the 2,000 mark. Let's see if I can get my camera back down. but we passed the 2,000 mark last week. We're up to 2,012 thank yous since we started doing this thing. So thank you guys for playing along with us. It's been fun. All right, let's see. Nothing really new on the organizations. We do have the Running to Honor 5K coming up toward the end of July. My Warriors Place, and Paul, I don't know if you know this or not, but my Warriors Place will be moving down to Punta Gorda. She bought a new piece of property down there. They've had somewhat of a dispute with the neighbors where they're at. And anyway, long story about it, and maybe we'll have Kelly on sometime to tell us the whole story. But it looks like at some point in the future, the whole operation will be moving down to Punta Gorda. So stay tuned for that. And I think that is it on the organization front. But always things going on locally there, I'm sure, where you all live. And yeah, Lori's talking about Memorial Day. Yeah, we're just about a month and a half away. We're doing some special things at my work to, it's either my head's crooked or my hat's crooked. I don't know which one. Yeah, so as we get closer to Memorial Day, we'll be sharing things that we know about that are happening around Memorial Day. And we would love for you guys to do that. So if you're going to be involved in anything Memorial Day related in the month of May, share that with us. Yeah, there is a distinction between Memorial Day. And I think part of the distinction, I don't blame people for not really understanding the difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. That's part of the reason I'm doing some things at work, is to show that difference. I don't blame people, because you know why? Turns out that the month of May is Military Appreciation Month. Who knew? I didn't know that. Maybe I did, but it turns out that May is Military Appreciation Month. So there's things going on in the month of May to recognize and appreciate the military. We'll be doing some of that too. But I guess it does give us an opportunity to show the distinction and talk about, the distinction between Memorial Day. And as we get closer to that, I know that most national cemeteries will have flag placements, kind of like we do the wreaths. And so there'll be all kind of opportunities I'm sure you guys will have to do things related to Memorial Day. And if you are, share those with us here on Speaking of Zane. Okay. Well, how about that? We made it through Speaking of Zane, not in record time, but quicker than I usually make it. But we are glad you guys join us on Sunday nights. At least I am. I'll tell you, it's therapy for me. I don't have a therapist. You guys are my therapist. And for me to be able to talk about Zane and talk about the things we do related to military and veterans, and sharing things with you all is very helpful to me. And sure appreciate you guys being there. And if you're watching the video, thank you for doing that. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys again. Next, let me share this. You know that little tune that I play as the outro? It's an instrumental that Zane wrote. And he wrote it for Abby, it turns out. And it never really had a name. And we always referred to it as Abby's song. And a couple of years ago, you saw me post this last week, because I stumbled on the memory on Facebook. Maybe it was late one night or something. And anyway, I started thinking about that song, and I thought, man, it's too bad that song didn't have words to it. And I got to thinking about, well, if I was to put some words with it, what would I put with it? And it's a very interesting tune, very easy to write choruses to, or verses to. The way that he had patterned the song, it was very easy for me to lay verses in there. And so within 10 minutes, I had written my very first and only song that I ever wrote. And to boot, and maybe I had a little liquid encouragement, I don't remember, but I sang it. And anyway, if you go to Speaking of Zane Facebook group, and if you have not endured the painful rendition of that song, not because of Zane's singing, Zane's playing, but my singing, go check it out. The words I don't even know if I can claim the words. I think they're probably divinely inspired, but the words said what I think when I think of him. Um, and you'll have to go watch it to listen to the words, and they'll make sense, and they tie right into speaking of Zane. And I named the song, or named my version of the song, "Say My Name," and you'll know why when you go listen to it. I told Lori we need to have a real singer record it, and it would bring a whole nother dimension or depth to it. But anyway, that is the story of the song that I always play as we're departing on Sunday nights. So, all right, gang. Well, thanks. It's been fun. We will look forward to seeing everybody again. I don't know what we got going on this week. Kind of a crazy week at work, but I think we're home next weekend. But so we'll plan on seeing you guys again here next Sunday night for Speaking of Zane. It'll be the 278th, no, 228th edition of Speaking of Zane. But we'll look forward to seeing y'all then. Take care. Have a great week. Make it count.